Hello and welcome back to the Morning Skate podcast, the only Morning Skate podcast that I've ever heard of, although there certainly is another Morning Skate, which feels like knockoff BR Open Ice, but whatever they are doing over there. Matt, how are you doing tonight?
Okay, we're gonna make it, I think. Took down my first underdog tournament of the year on Tuesday, which saved my night. Just desperately
You took
needed
it. I
that
thought you
one.
lost. You texted me as if you had died in that. So you
Oh
won?
no, I was
Tell me more.
yeah, no, I had the absolute nuts. Buffalo 3-man with Darlene, Tage, JJ, McKinnon. That was a 101 draft, obviously, and Mitch Marner with Stolars. So like the Leafs there. So I got the shutout in net. Vanacek just wasn't popular enough to chase me down anywhere. The Buffalo put it out of reach, and then McKinnon I think had 5 points. So yeah, I just scrolled the F down basically to get 3 Buffalo pieces. So I think I was like the only person in the contest who had 3. Um, maybe that's not true. I think I saw an Alex talk or something there, but I just sort of threaded the needle perfectly. Would have won the other contest, the bigger $5. It was still 1,000 the first. It wasn't a big deal. It's not like you can multi-enter the same team, but it would have won that contest by like 7 or 8 points too. So just a good way to go. Turn 10 into 1K, and that made up for losing on DraftKings. And I lost a lot more than $10 on DraftKings. So, all in all, I ended up a little bit
That's awesome.
positive.
Really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had some Tage Darlene, and I just didn't have it with JJ because I'm a coward. And that
Yep.
was, I believe, the winner in the other contest as well. You did that was about $10 for you. I didn't get that many drafts in. I was busy with a bunch of betting stuff, real work, and whatnot. So I only ended up having 75, and I brought back 90. I have one team that was flirting with making real money, but never going to get all the way home. Just chalk donkey stuff, and some of the chalk donkey players got there. So I was with the other donkeys, unlike you who shipped it. DraftKings, I won't go over too much. I played pretty much exactly what I said I was going to play, and I double checked it this morning before we got started here. I just just wanted to get the exact number, and I'm going to quiz you quickly. On $120 I entered into DraftKings on the DFS slate, how much did I bring back?
Well, you had 5 teams. I know that because I saw them. You had a bunch of McKinnon. I'm going to go with, say 92.
$122.
Oh, wow.
I'm not
You
even
made
sure like how that
$2.
happened exactly. I think one of mine split or something on the line, but yeah, that's what it said. I checked because I was like, wait, hold on. And I was like, yep, no, that's the notification. I said I went at $122 on 120. So yeah, not a total faceplant. You wrote a whole article about the slate. It's one of those situations where the chalk got there. It got there in a way that took down the barn bash. But it's funny how like you could have played so much better. Just like what actually was the optimal, right? Buffalo won,
Yeah.
Philly won, basically.
There,
Plus,
no,
I mean,
no, no,
it
no.
would
There
have
was
been
a team.
Vanacek who really won the slate.
There was a team in the $20 that put up like 230.
Yep.
That like was the nuts. It was not a Philly
Yeah.
team.
Yeah. It wasn't Philly, but
Let's see.
like Konechny was the
Yeah.
highest
The
scorer, I believe, other than McKinnon. Like,
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, the main
it doesn't matter. Yeah.
what am I trying to say? The 555, I think the winner had 187 and maybe it was 177. I think that's right, 177. Yeah. And the $20, the second place team had 186. So like not a huge gap there. First place had 217. BB Mon just absolutely ran away with this thing. Tage, Dylan Cousins, Paterka, Darlene, Byram. So 5 Sabres. Obviously got 2 goals from Bo Byram. Had McKinnon and Lehkonen.
Yep.
And then DJ, the skeleton key that unlocked the Vanacek play at 7,600 at the wing position for 2,500, sir. Oliver Wahlstrom.
Cordata.
No, he could have scored an
I thought
extra
that was
20 points.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
The winner of the
I would
555
say that
played
one of my
Coronado,
biggest things was
but yeah.
yeah. Yeah, that's right. Okay. I was but again, like I mean, I talked a lot about just how much I was into the Flames, and I ended up just going, you know what? I'm playing 100% of my Flames with through Sharon Govich and like directional accuracy with 5 shots on goal aside, whatever. Coronado smash fest, instant overtime goal. Oh, my hat is Justician. It's the new logo. Just those guys are doing a bunch of cool stuff with New Era. So I went over to their launch, and I saw Trent Frederick wearing a hat. I saw Tage Thompson wearing a hat. I know UPL stopped by after I was there. I wasn't gonna hang around and find him, but kind of a new like not new. It's been around for since we were in high. Like they started this when we were in high school. We knew the guys, a couple of the guys. So cool company to support
Yeah.
out of Buffalo
I
if you're into that kind of stuff.
yeah,
Dion
I played
Dawkins.
hockey.
Yeah.
I played hockey
We had a
with
bunch
Matty
of guys.
Keeler.
Yeah. Yeah.
Super nice kid.
I might pop
I
over.
knew him.
I was texting him. Yeah. Yeah. And we played with Ben too a little bit. But yeah, we definitely a cool place to check in on if you're, I mean, merch online and stuff. So always good to shout out those guys. But yeah, no, I think the slate yesterday, I would say that I would give myself 7 out of 10 on my plays. Not mad about it. I think I just was a little bit too hesitant to win the slate. Like I think I talk about this a lot of like, what does it look like to win? Did I make any lineups that actually could have won $50,000 in the $20? And at the end of the day, I just don't think I quite did it. Like I felt like I made a lot of really good lineups, but it's not good enough for 50K. And I looked at Buffalo 1 and I'm like, man, I'm not a homer. I don't need to do this garbage, whatever. So ended up going with just a ton of Vancouver, and that was good, and a ton of Colorado, and that was good. And I even had some of it together, and that was great, but it wasn't enough. So ho hum, we move on to the next slate
Yeah.
and this massive Thursday night slate, which DraftKings rewarded us with just a beautiful 10K up top in the main $15 after we filled everything almost instantly, not literally, but like we filled it incredibly early on Tuesday. If you build it, they will come, and they're not building it tomorrow. So, alas.
Because no one will show up because it's NFL night and NBA is back. So yeah, that's why we've been down this road before. Whatever. The contests are the contests.
All right, I'm going to ask you this, and we'll move on. I know. But
Okay.
do you think people like if there was a $200,000 up top contest, you're saying people wouldn't show up because there's other sports going on?
No, because the NBA will have 100K to first, and people know what to do in NBA, and they're just clicking
Right.
buttons with NHL.
Okay, but we can move over. So, are you ready to get right into the games? Or is there anything else you want to talk about before we got into it?
Yeah, there's multiple things. First, I could talk about what I did on Tuesday, but I wrote about it. I linked that in the YouTube chat here. It's also going to be in the description of the podcast if you are listening back later. You can also just come to the Discord. It's in the announcements channel there, so pretty easy to find. I tweeted it too. And yeah, that was it's something I do after every marquee slate, every flagship GPP, if you will. So that's usually about a once a month thing. But yeah, I wrote all about the slate, my process, what I saw in the field, and ultimately how the night went. So that's all in there. Secondly, we have a ton of comments to get to. I don't know how many of those you want to cover, but there's actually a few questions in there before we get to the game by game stuff.
Oh, yeah, there are legitimate questions. I saw, DGen in here, DGen Stoner just going off on his bets, but McMichael was free, always has been the best Connor Mick in the game. No one even close. But yeah, the first real question, I guess, is what are your thoughts on Trotz saying he might activate the rebuild in Nashville? My thoughts are that's a wake up call. And if they truly do not wake up at all, maybe they sell something, but like, I don't think that there's anything going to happen right now. Like, let's see how they get out of this game here tonight. Let's see how they move forward, but it feels like a pretty strong wake up call more than anything actionable.
Yeah, they don't have anything they can do. Like they don't have any short-term assets to move. So, they have a bunch of pick capital. They have, decent prospects. So, yeah, I don't think anything happens. There's no real reason to think anything will change, and particularly from a fantasy standpoint, like I'm, season long or whatever. I'm not like, oh no, like Nashville's going to be terrible. Like that's independent of whether Barry Trotz, says that or not. I think. The other actual question, Dorofiev in season long. Yeah, if he's still out there, you should be grabbing him. There's no reason to think that if Olofsson returns, that he will immediately take that spot. It's very possible, but yeah, there's Dorofiev has a great prospect profile. The team clearly loves him, and yeah, he's power play 1 right now in the top 6 on a very good Vegas team. So that's a player who should have been picked up already. So go get him. When will Cutter score? You know what? We're just
never.
We're done with questions.
Never
the
scored.
link for the hat was called Just
Oh.
Edition. Yeah, that's.
I can find it.
I think that's. Yeah. And yeah, thank you, Tim, for sharing. Fucking goalies, man. Anyone's input on selection would be awesome. Tim, you're talking to 2 guys who had 0 shares of Vitek Vanacek, so we don't know. We don't know, but we're right in the lane with you.
I think it's kind of a little bit dependent on underdog versus DraftKings, the question. But if you're talking just DraftKings, or I guess if you play on FanDuel, whatever. But like the best way, in my opinion, is, and what I normally, like, Matt posts a sheet in the Discord every slate. The sheet goes over what pace could look like and this and that and goals and whatnot. And I like to just make sure I'm getting a team that I think has projectable volume at all. Whether that team converts or doesn't convert, you can try to use some of those, goal index metrics, and Matt can kind of explain. He already has explained it in great detail on his Beehive. I think that's a good way to try to at least get the pool into a good mix. But last night, if you would have put a gun to my head and said, who's going to score 45 points in net, Vanacek would have been far down the list. Like, not unplayable. I mean, I actually almost played the Flyers goalie. Like, I had him in a lineup for a while. But Askarov, or not Askarov, what the heck's his name? I have him on my fantasy team in the minors. What the heck? Kolosov. Yeah. Cool. I was like, I mean, again, like, because the volume was going to be there if he makes the saves. Like, Vanacek is not a good goaltender. He's been tossed around. He's been useless. He's literally was like the biggest problem with the Devils last year. Doesn't really matter on a 1-game slate. Yeah, like you just can't.
I'm not trying to diminish the question or the sentiment that you're sharing, but if I had a nickel for every single time we've fielded that question via the Discord, via the YouTube chat now, via Twitter, like about goalies, I would, we would actually make money at this podcast, including the domain and the equipment, and maybe not the time because we spend way too much time on this bullshit. But yeah, it's just a common refrain, and the answer is the same. 1 game of goaltending is random. The best goaltenders in the NHL are .930. They save 93 out of 100 shots. Guys who save 90 out of 100 shots, they're shipped down to the AHL so fast. I mean, that's even like .915 is a really good goalie in this current NHL. So like, you're talking about 1 shot per 100 being the literal difference between the best and the worst goalie. And now you're making that play out on a single night of hockey. There's going to be 30 shots in a game, maybe 40 if the team gets a bunch of volume. You have no idea whether the goalie is going to stop 38 or 39 or 35 of those 40 shots. It's all just noise. And so acting like you know better in that, I think it's just a fool's errand. You're wasting your time. So the only advice I can give is just play what fits. Play what correlates, play what fits, play what leverages the chalk. Do whatever, spend as little time on it as possible, and do not make decisions around goalie. Just let it happen, build the team you like, plug in a goalie that doesn't anti-correlate. Don't stack Matthews against Swayman. Obviously Matthews didn't play. So like, don't do that, and you'll be fine. Anyway, well, we need to get to these 12 games because there are 12 games, and we are already 15 minutes in. We're not going an hour and 40 on this bullshit slate.
Really quickly, let's just say it. Goalies you played on Tuesday, Massive Slate. I went with Nedeljkovic was my main guy in my 5. I had him in 3, and then I had Swayman, and I had 1 Olmark. Just thought the volume would be there, and again, it's just like, get away from that Islanders chalk. Almost worked out. Swayman was bad, but I still thought for the price he was good. Matt, you played one lineup, right?
Yep.
Who would you have in that?
Swayman. Thanks for reading.
Swayman, right? Okay, to the slate. 15-minute mark. Perfect timing to get into all the games. It is the Calgary Flames at the Boston Bruins. The Coronados versus the Pasternaks. The slate is a 5.5 over under, minus 125 on that over, but very low total. Boston is a very big favorite, a little bit surprising, but I guess not that crazy to think, but minus 185. Flames are on the East Coast. They played in Montreal on Tuesday. Now they go to Boston. Boston's looked very bad. The Flames have found ways to win, even though they're not that good. Feels like a bad game and the total's low, but there's a lot of guys that are cheap, like Coronado smashed. He is 2,800. He is power play 2. Zari, power play 2, 3,500, playing with Kadri Kuzmenko. But is anything here that instantly stands out?
Well, I know I said I was done with the comments after the Cutter Gauthier question, but Marco says Pit 1 was sharp and added me. So, I have to share that because, yes, I am the sharpest. I lost money, but it doesn't matter.
They truly, they were
still played
so
the best.
close. They were so close to winning the slate, like twice. I mean, like overtime power play, you could have easily gotten there. Yeah. Anyways, though,
Anyway,
back to the
Calgary. No, thank you. Like, this team sucks. I will continue to just fade them. If you want to do anything, play Matt Coronado, because I think with the recalibration of their lineup, what's actually changed here? I'm trying to. Mantha got hurt. That's right. Mantha got hurt.
Right.
Not expected to play, so he's going to be second line. Coronado is, and I suspect he will pick up power play time as well. That's good enough for me at 2,800. Michael Backlund is pretty cheap for what he's been doing, and Blake Coleman is 4,100. No power play time for him, but he's a very good 5-on-5 player. So that line is somewhat interesting just because it's Boston. I suspect that the Lindholm Pastrnak line will go out against Kadri. Does that matter because this Boston team is just a floating wreck at this point? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where I would go. I know you're going to try and tell Igor Cherangovich, but just like, I don't care. Like, this team sucks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not spending real money on players.
Yeah, I mean, whatever you want to do here is fine. If you want to get some puns, I think Coronado and that line is fine. I think it's not that much different to play, Huberdeau and Sharangovich, but I don't really think Pospisil adds a lot of value. Like, Mantha was actually doing pretty well there. So I'm probably going to take a look at a one-off Coronado and move on. The minutes have been fine. The rates have been okay. It's the finishing that he has, 4 goals, 0 assists. And that's kind of like, you're just hoping he pots one and you move on, but he's heating up. He got sent down, called back up. He was pissed about it. There was a whole controversy, and the profile of a good player is there, as you're highlighting. I'm fine with it. No big. There's not. They go again. It's a 5.5. Don't game stack this up.
Yep. There's not much else. We're suspecting Barry will play again. He's been okay. 5.3 expected fantasy points per game for a 2,500 punt. Can certainly do worse. It's not great, but he's getting power play time, so it is what it is there. And it goes with Coronado Backlund if you really just need to save money for whatever reason. Boston side, we don't know what the lines will be. Of course, they got shut out against Toronto. They did not practice, so just suspecting they keep what they had last game. But it all could change. Of course, Brad Marchand continues to trend down. His expected fantasy point numbers are just going berserk. I mean, he's really doing a lot of good stuff out there, just getting no results. Can't really say the same thing about the team. Like, the team has really poor process. It's not like they're just an unlucky team to be losing in the fashion that they are. But I think Marchand, Lindholm, Pastrnak is just a little bit, they're not dead. Like, yes, their numbers are not great. But when you look at what's available on this slate, oh my God, there's so many players. We look at Boston on this little Excel. Pastrnak has the 4th best expected fantasy points per game output. Marchand has the 8th best, and this is a huge slate, 24 teams. You're looking at 2 guys in the top 10 who combine for, the line combines to be 19.1K, and they're going to be on the ice in all situations. So I really like the Boston top line. I understand that Lindholm and Pastrnak have not been playing well together, but like when I can get Marchand and Pastrnak together, I'm just going to take my chances, I think. Especially now that I lose Pittsburgh because they're on the road in Carolina on this slate. So I can't really just say, oh, well, there's my 3-man because I love playing Malkin and Sid together. Probably not going there on this slate. So yeah, Boston, I like a lot.
Yep, I totally fine with it. It's, the Lindholm, Pastrnak, Marchand line or bust. Pastrnak is shooting a ton. He's not getting rewarded as much as he should. It's I don't think it's going to be hammered on, but the Flames aren't that good. So like Pastrnak could easily break the slate here, and he hasn't quite had one in him yet. But yeah, fine with that. Nothing really else to add. Totally justifiable what you said. We can move on to the Islanders at Ottawa if you're ready.
Yep. So
yeah,
what do we
Islanders
have?
on the road. Minus 148 for the home. Senators 6 over under minus 108. Yep, this is the real NHL team here in the island with a bunch of real players that are gonna play. Your thoughts?
Oliver Wahlstrom got his 7 minutes of ice time. Good for him. Yeah, just not actually playing him. Just but 2,500 for a guy who's in the trigger position on the power play is always going to be alluring. But yeah, he literally gets 7 minutes of ice time because I don't know who needs to score goals in the NHL. The only thing here is that Anders Lee is getting priced up to account for his production. So maybe you could pivot to Nelson and Palmieri, who are still a very good duo, and their prices pretty much remain the same. The problem is that you don't get Dobson with them on the power play, so maybe that shifts. I suspect that if Siplikov, Nelson, Palmieri are clicking, that there's really no reason that Wah wouldn't just send them out first over the boards with Dobson, like for a power play shift. But we don't really have any evidence of that. So if you play any power play, either of the top 2 lines in the island, I would definitely consider Noah Dobson. I'm assuming they don't get back Riley and Pellick. Romanov, I believe, hasn't even started skating yet. So I would suspect that this blue line remains as is, which would mean Dennis Cholowski's here. He played 8 minutes last game. They tended to like what they got out of Isaiah George, a very defensive profile, but young guy, drafted in 2022. So, yeah, there's not much else besides Dobson that I can advocate for on the road in Ottawa. JG Pageau revenge. DJ, throw it to you.
Yeah, not a lot of interest in the Islanders. Scott Mayfield was a bit chalky at minimum salaries, 2,700. He had the blocks bonus, played 25 minutes. People might go back to him, but it kind of feels a bit. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to do it again. I had a bunch of him. I felt like okay about it, but it kind of feels like a coward's play. Definitely like Dobson on quite a bit. Hits the shots bonus back-to-back games, 30 minutes of ice time. Hasn't scored yet, but man, if he could score, he could really put a slate into a difficult spot. I think if you're playing the Islanders, you're going through him. There's just no need not to. They're so cheap, and I do agree with going any direction you want there. I think my preferred is just Lee, Horvat, Dobson. If you put a gun to my head and said I had to play the Islanders, that's what I'd do. Again, I don't really know if I'm going to be doing it, though.
Okay, so Ottawa, they are at home. I believe they are one of the most home road splitty teams in the league. I think they're 5-1 at home and 1-4 on the road. I obviously they just got pummeled by the Sabres. They might get back Shane Pinto and Artem Zub. I actually retweeted something from Pinto that has nothing to do with DFS, but I really enjoyed it. There was kind of a viral tweet that went around, like just someone who seemed to know a bit about hockey, but was asking basically from like I never played, but like, what are these questions? And they're just like, what you would do when you're sitting with your buddies smoking a reefer. And do people say reefer, or am I like 87 years old for saying that? I don't know, whatever.
That's the oldest thing you've ever said. Yeah.
Literally, I have no idea what the slang is to talk about weed because I do not partake. There were a bunch of questions, and they were just silly questions. And this social media like guy, their intern went through and basically read all of them to Shane Pinto. It's like a 3-minute interview, and it's just, I don't know, it's just so genuine. I know you're on the Shane Pinto train. I loved it. I'm not a huge Pinto guy in fantasy myself, but I'll have to say he could be back here. Would expect him to go back to the third line. But yeah, any interest in the Sens here?
I do like Shane Pinto. I think he's very funny. Let's see, what's his 4,200?
Yep.
Yeah, I kind of doubt it. I think I would, if he goes in for Greg, which would be a bit shocking considering Greg scored at 5-on-5 with Stutzel Brady, and while that line wasn't great at 5-on-5 against Buffalo, as not many were, he did get a lot of run. So we'll see. But we'll kind of got to suss it out a little bit. I am interested in attacking the Islanders more so than I am in playing the Islanders. I could really be easily convinced to go back to a bit of the Norris Batherson situation. I also, Shabbat is fine. I think if you're punting for whatever reason with these Ottawa Senators, which it's a little bit here to glean, like Gaudette is, the guy you mentioned before. I think like if you're playing a Gaudette or something, you could probably convince me that Shabbat is okay with the run he's getting, with the volume, and the the double bonus potential. It feels a bit expensive, but like he's producing and not on the top power play. I'm not saying that's going to change, but that's something I'm at least keeping an eye on. Of like if he gets a look there. Like Sanderson's been good too. It's tough to say, but like, yeah.
If Pinto comes back, I think we can just say Gaudette season's over. But as long as he remains out, again, the production has been there. Like the opportunity to slide into the top 6 is not zero. So like I would understand the appeal of taking a guy who's been productive with a power play job and on a team that theoretically could use him due to injury in the top 6. So. Thank you to the stoner in the chat. Maybe smoking a fatty or a blunt, sir. Reefer is like pothead. Sure. I learned. I will be better and go forward. All right. Defensively, Artem Zub could be back again. Don't really care about that, but would just steal minutes away from someone like Nick Jensen or JBD or whoever. So anything else here before we move on?
Yeah. Nashville will go to Florida. Nashville on a back-to-back there in a 2-2 game as we speak. It is a 6 over-under. Florida is a -180 favorite at home. Florida's been rolling. Nashville's been not rolling. We'll see if they get a win. Already kind of discussed. Things aren't going well. Wake-up call kind of sent over the bow. Nashville's incredibly expensive. They're on a back-to-back. They're in Florida. I don't really see any reason to click the buttons here. But maybe Matt, you can try to convince me otherwise.
Yeah, no, a road back-to-back in Florida, just not worth it. Florida is quite good, so not really looking to press anything there. This second line is kind of interesting. I don't know what they're doing against Washington, but Nyquist at 3,400 with a Marchessault 5,400 and Colton Sissons 2,600. It's a terrible matchup. You can't really say anything good about that, but these prices, 11K for a line that includes Marchessault on the top power play and 2 guys who could be second power play. Honestly, don't know. It could be Tomasino, there, but with Tommy Novak as a scratch, that just sort of opens up a role for Sissons. That is fine, but again, terrible. But you don't get many chances to stack a full line at 11.4K that gets a piece of the power play one, especially for a team like Nashville that has, Roman Josi and Phil Forsberg. They should be doing better than they are now. So that's all I can say. I'm not spending up for the top line though.
Yeah,
Florida?
no, I mean, if you click on Nashville tomorrow, definitely play Josi. If you click on Florida tomorrow, there's options. But yeah, no, Yosi's been awesome. Yeah, Florida, I don't know if this is where I'm going to go. I do respect Nashville. I think they're a lot better than the record would indicate. And these prices are pretty steep. It probably just for Higgy the Chuck for me if I'm going to do it. But again, I don't really think this is where I'm going to go. It's a 6 total. I don't really I don't think that it's going to be unowned. Matt the Chuck at 7,200 is at least enticing. Reinhardt's been everything and more, but it kind of feels like this, like Verhaeghe and Matt the Chuck should be doing better than they are, and Reinhardt and Barkov are doing better than they should be doing, but that just happens. Then it's kind of makes sense when you watch the power play or you're going to watch these guys, how they play and whatnot. But yeah, I think I'm not going to do it. And maybe more so than anything, it's like, oh, okay, so like Matt the Truck and Verhage get there. Well, what about Sam Bennett? And it's like, I am not clicking 7K Sam Bennett. So great. Good luck with that, everyone else.
Yep. That makes perfect sense to me. I guess if you made me pick a line, I would just say Barkov Reinhardt over Kachuk for Hagee. But I don't think you're picking the third wheels. Erod's just been bad. There's really no way around it. He had a couple good games in the playoffs last year, but I don't think there's anything like really all that noteworthy. You can add it if you really want to. Again, that full line stack, because he's so cheap, is only 18.5K, but Barkov Reinhardt are just glued together at 5-on-5 power play and PK. You're only getting 5-on-5 with Erod, so like it's not a must play by any means. And there are values, of course, with the 24 team slate to just play as a one-off, who are probably just better than Erod in my book. But I'm also just not that like I don't really buy that Erod's all that talented or anything. So like if he's not even chucking, like what is he good for? And I would just say nothing. Any interest in the D-men on Florida? We have basically everyone's sub 4K. Forsling is sub 4K. He has no power play role, but of course he was really good last year. Ekblad, secondary power play time, been a little bit productive. And then a power play one, Balinskis, 2,600. It's just been a while since we've had Florida on the main slate because of their Europe trip. So any thoughts on deploying defensemen for Florida in DFS?
I guess if you're already stacking them, you could probably convince me to play one, but I don't think I'm going to. Doesn't really feel like any of them have a ton of ceiling, but there's, they're not expensive. There's probably worse ways of doing it. It's just not what I'm planning on right now. No.
Okay. Let's get over to Montreal and New Jersey. What do we have here?
Yeah, I believe it's our biggest favorite of the night, but no, it's not. It's not. There's obviously one that's bigger. Second biggest favorite of the night. New Jersey minus 298 at home, 6.5. Devils chalk feels like it could be incoming. Canadians on the other side of the house are probably not going to garner as much ownership. We talk about how you would play them almost every slate. They kind of blew it. They looked okay against the Flames, and late third period goal, overtime immediate. See you later. I think that if I'm playing the Canadians, I'm playing Nick Suzuki and Caulfield, and whoever is with them. Right now it's Kirby Dach. If it goes back to Slavkovsky, I would like that more, but it is what it is. I don't think I'm doing it, but I really do think Nick Suzuki at 5,700 is like a value. He's a great player. He can, I think, truly 3-point upsides on the dot. Like it's there for him. And when he's going to be very low owned, I like to consider it just because I do think he's like, I think he's better than maybe people give him credit for. I know it's a kind of a joke of like, oh, well, yep, they got their line one center in Montreal for the future, Nick Suzuki. And it's like, yeah, is he actually an elite player in the league? Probably not, but like he gets the run and he plays with normally very talented players. And I think Caulfield is that kind of guy that can, score 2, Suzuki scores 1, and they, kind of 3-point together. And it's going to be very, very low owned. And I think the Devils are good defensively and better in net, but are they, world beating in either category? No. So I could buy in on it, but I'm probably not going to play it. It's there though.
The main problem with the top line for Montreal is that they're going to face the Hischier matchup. They've been using Timo and Hischier as sort of like their shutdown line, and that line with Dawson Mercer has been incredible. Really no way around it. So that's a main concern of mine. Just again, the matchup is very similar to like Nashville. It's like where the production's coming from. It's just really hard to make room for it on a 12-game slate. If Slavkovsky moves up there, he's been really interesting. I'm not sure what to make of his explosion. He obviously missed a few games in the last 10, so this is a handful of games as his sample. But he's been very productive from an expected fantasy point standpoint, 12.5 per game versus Caulfield at 10 and Suzuki at 11. So if that line gets reunited, he's 4,800. That might be worth taking a flyer on as like a one-off. He's playing that right flank on the power play, which is like more of a one-timer spot. It's possible that with 9 goals, teams are just selling out to stop Caulfield, so far, now that he's gotten a little bit hot. So maybe he's just taking advantage of that. The production hasn't followed, which of course is why his salary is still falling down to 4,800 now. But yeah, we could be seeing a little bit of a breakout from Slavkovsky, who was like perfectly good last year, played a bunch of minutes, of course, but wasn't like great on a permanent basis. Maybe this is something new, but just something that we should keep in mind for going forward. Minor note, they did send Oliver Kapanen back to, I believe, from the Liga. That's where he came from. So he's not playing in the NHL anymore. That leaves open a power play job. My guess is Josh Anderson picks that up, but we don't know. Maybe Josh Anderson and Gallagher are a fine way to punt because New Jersey has no depth, and we know that Gallagher and Anderson have good rates historically. But nothing jumps out to me as like, yeah, you got to play this. So New Jersey. What do you like here on New Jersey beyond just obvious? Hey, Nico Heischer's been awesome, hasn't he?
Yeah, put him on the cover. Kind of maybe a bit of a what is it called? Something herring or something. I don't know, but I think I'm playing Jack Hughes and Jesper Bratt and maybe pull out with it. Probably honestly pull out with it at 2,800. Like I wonder, it's a red herring. I think that's the saying. But yeah, Nico Hischier has been absolutely fantastic. There's nothing wrong. I've been jamming him on goals and shots and all the things. He's been really, really, really productive, and it warranted. Like you're kind of showing here, the expected fantasy points and the actual fantasy points are not that far off. And as you can tell by his goal production, he has a lot of those fantasy points. I do think people are going to go to it here, and Timo Meyer is great, and Dawson Mercer seems like a very gifted playmaker, and I definitely get playing them all together. But I wonder if it doesn't get quite as chalky on the 7,700 Jack. He hasn't had any sort of explosive output. His highest total came quite a while ago for the 24.5. Other than that, it's been, for a guy with 12 points in 15 games, just hasn't really gotten there. He's averaging 11 fantasy points. He's not doing a ton as far as this guy have a million shot bonuses. He's got like 3 in 15 games, but it's there. Everything is there for Jack Hughes, and when he puts it together, it's going to just, completely nuke a slate. And Jesper Bratt, I think, is the perfect kind of guy to come along for the ride. Point per game player, 5,800 seems way too cheap. Like, why is he so much cheaper than Timo, who's not in the top power play? So I'm going New Jersey 1 as kind of one of my flag plants. It's not going to get overlooked. It's not like it's, this hidden gem. I'm going against the grain of Nico Hischier, but I don't think either of them are going to be the obvious play as much as the other. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah. It'll be worth looking into further. I'm not sure how much to make of it, but the reason that New Jersey looks like they have a decent matchup is just because Montreal has been so bad defensively. Their 10-game offense is actually below average in terms of expected goals at 5-on-5, and their shot quantity is also below average. Their Corsi for, so that might be a signal to just fade if we're trying to sort between 2 different teams, 2 different lines, and there's no perfect power play stack. But I'll look into sort of whether maybe Jack Hughes is just having a down start and Nico Hischier's been very good, something like that. Maybe would sway me toward just oh, well, actually the expecteds are okay for this line. I'm not going to waste the time right now to do a full analysis of that. But maybe check in the Discord and I'll drop something if I find something noteworthy. What I will say though is that I have no problem with Timo Meyer being on the second power play. If you're saying, oh well, I can't play Hischier because he has no power play one guy with him. Honestly, I'd rather Timo be there. This is not a team that'll do a minute 50, top power play type deal. And he just wasn't touching the puck enough on the top unit. That second unit is quite talented too. Obviously now with Luke Hughes to distribute, Dawson Mercer's pretty good, and Timo obviously is really, really good with the puck on his stick. And it's just a more natural role for him. He looks really, really solid out there. This line is clicking. So my lean is New Jersey too, but again, because I'm guessing ownership follows in a pretty massive way here, um, I want to do a little bit more poking around as far as like why these numbers are relatively poor at 5-on-5 and whether this team is just, oh, well, actually Nico Hischier is shooting 11%, so they're just winning. I don't want to play into ownership, that sort of situation. So more to come, but that's my initial read on New Jersey and what should be a pretty chalky spot.
Yeah, right. But I do think it's a good note that like we're both like, I don't know, between the two, they're both really good. I do agree that it's, I would stack either of them together. I'm not saying like play Nico naked, but the point being they're both very good plays. People are going to be on it. We can move over to Buffalo at the Rangers, the surging Sabres, I will call them today. Coming off of a slate-breaking performance against Ottawa, now have to play a real hockey team in the New York Rangers. Rangers are minus 205 favorites at home. It's a minus 120 on the over 6. I
got
tend to
my Ryan Miller
like
shirt.
this game. Wow, what a homer. They're a real organization that matters. Cool. We were there together, actually, now that I think about it. Anyways, though, for Miller Knight. Is that the shirt from Miller Knight? That's their shirts?
Yeah.
Sabres.
Yeah, Tam got it for me.
Paterka.
I got tickets.
Thompson.
Yeah. Anyway, the Sabres are going to be the same. Paterka, great. Tage, really good. He's been fun. Obviously you see the expected and the actuals are pretty good, just not on the top power play, so it's a little bit more hit or miss. There's really nothing new here. The matchup is a little bit troubling. Not troubling. It's a little bit like of a downgrade for them. However, I'm just gonna move on because I think we know what the Sabres are. Who to play if you really want to. It's the top line. It's Dahlin. The Rangers went scorched earth as far as their line combinations and their D pairs. It's interesting. Panarin, Zibanejad, Lafreniere, Cooley, Trocheck, Riley Smith, Chris Kreider, Hedl, and Kako. Of course, this means they're breaking up the Cooley, Hedl, Kako trio. That was one of the league's best to start the year, just as far as a controlling play at 5-on-5. So they're trying to get their 5-on-5 game back in order. I am curious as to does the Zibanejad Panarin does that get a ton of ownership because the Mika magic, the price on Mika, and obviously the newfound correlation of Panarin, or does just kind of get overlooked because Panarin's 9,200. We have Kucherov coming up against Philly at far cheaper. We have Colorado's on the slate with Lehkonen. We have what's the other one? Dallas against Chicago on a back-to-back. So we're gonna be able to spend up on studs if we want. So do the Rangers get lost here? So what are your thoughts on these new line combinations? Anything stand out to you that you can attack from a DFS perspective?
I think if I try to just remove my biases, which are, you might be thinking, didn't you say you're a Sabres fan? My negative biases towards watching the Sabres my whole life and having them rip my heart out and thinking that this is actually interesting. I would say that the Sabres have been very good at 5-on-5. Great in really every metric that you'd point to be like, this team should be better than they're playing. Nothing against the play here. I still think it's fine. It's a 1-game slate and the Sabres have not performed up to these, expected numbers. They're expected, but they're not actual. You could play it. There's no problem with it. I do think it'll garner at least some ownership. It seems like the Rangers always do at home in a spot, again, that it's a minus 205. It's a 6 that's shading towards that over. I get it for sure. I think I'm not going to end up having it. I think I'd like a couple spots more, and I don't see myself having a Rangers Devil situation and then punting around it. But I definitely understand the play. Just again, probably not where I'm going to end up landing, but I get it. Again, there's nothing wrong with it. I think that's the only spot I'm looking at. I'm certainly not going to Trocheck at his price, playing with Cooley and Riley Smith. I'm certainly, not looking to Chris Kreider, even with that power play role. Even though Hedl and Kako have been pretty good, I think it's probably the Panarin or bust, and how you play around it is up to you. But I think that's the way I'm looking at things.
Yeah, my inclination is that the third line is where I would want to go. It's 12.2K in total, and you get two guys on the second power play in Tito and Kako who have been very good at 5-on-5 together. Yeah, again, with Cooley, their numbers are fantastic. I'm gonna guess that's not because of Will Cooley. That's not to say Cooley has not been playing very well. I mean, he's even listed as in Pronman's like prospect rankings in the top 150 in the NHL. Like he's 132. Like he is a prospect of pedigree. He's been playing well, of course. He's still young, so like it's very well possible that he's the guy driving the bus here. But like Chris Kreider's, a certified pro. He's a good NHLer. He kills penalties. He's defensively sound, like so on and so on. He made Zibanejad look good last year for stretches. Like it's not hard. It's not easy to do that. I think that there's some call to action here just because Kreider, is good. It's just sort of replacing Cooley with Kreider, and I like that. We don't have stats from last year for Hedel with his injury, but if you stretch back into the past 3 years, here on the right of my Excel, we see that he's actually one of the better like DK point per 60 players on the team. He's the best shot attempts per 60 player on the team. Like this is a guy who was firing when back before his injury troubles. He's not been great this season, but you got to consider that the minutes were relatively capped, just not being in the top 6. And it's very possible that this line is a second line, at 5-on-5 with Cooley, Trocheck, and Smith being the third line. Like I'm not ready to say that's impossible. So I might lean into a bit of variance here and say, oh, well, this line actually gets 17, 18 minutes rather than 13, 14. And the pricing just makes it work. So I'm not super strong on that take. I don't think I'll need to like stack this full line, but it's there. And I will keep it in my back pocket if nothing else is coming together for me and see what I can fit with it.
Okay, yeah,
All right.
interesting stuff there. I definitely think
Minor.
come in handy at some point.
Yep. Super minor thing.
Gonna
Zach
say I've just
Jones,
deployed
third
that.
pair, second power play, 2,500. He took that job from Kendre Miller. Kendre Miller's playing with Jake Trouba. We know how that goes. It's just donkey fest. So I'm not interested in any defense here besides maybe Zach Jones as a one-off 2,500 guy. I don't think there's too many guys. I think Tyson Berry's one we mentioned, but yeah, just a punt if you need it. All right, Pittsburgh at Carolina. Unfortunately,
Final
go
7 o'clock game. The final 7 o'clock game. It's a 6.5. Carolina minus 265 at home.
Okay. Yeah. Which of course, Brian Rust could be back. We didn't get any firm word, but I'm guessing if he plays, that would be in place of Ricard Raquel. But it's very possible that they would go back to separating Sid and Malkin. So that would make me sad. Kevin Hayes, I think, got hurt. So like if he doesn't play and Russ doesn't play, someone needs to pop in. It doesn't really matter. It's against Carolina. So just I'm ignoring it, but yeah, just wanted to note that for all for wholesome or for holistic purposes. How do you like Carolina here against the Penguins?
Yeah, it's fine. Obviously, they continue to potentially I think it's again. I think I'm very much holding to Carolina 1 or nothing. If I'm playing it, I don't think I'm just not gonna at these prices. So like I get that Pittsburgh's bad, but it just feels like you're trying to thread a needle on a team that's not trying to allow a needle to be thread and allow that this good correlated perfect situation to come together. It's just going to continue to be what it's like. Are you winning $10,000 or whatever the grand prize is on a slate stacking Carolina when the correlations are a mess and it seems like 3 guys on 4 different lines somehow the math doesn't even work out, somehow score all the goals? I don't know. You can play it. They're good. But I think for me, it's like if I'm going to try to find the perfect correlation, it's just Aho, Sveshnikov, the best line on the team, the line that, I could even throw in Roslovic. It's fine. again, I just don't think I'm going there, but I definitely think that's the only way for me. Like, I'm just going to hope that Natchez cools off and that Jarvis is uninvolved being on a checking line with Martinuk and Jordan Stahl.
Yeah. Pittsburgh has been playing with some tempo. Like it's not like they're getting caved in at 5-5. Their defensive numbers don't look great, but again, it's not like they're getting killed. So Carolina does profile pretty well. Again, they're scoring goals, which is very scary because the Corsi Canes, like they're scoring just as much over their competition as their expected goals are. Which when they're scoring 1.2 expected, or when they're putting up 1.2 expected goals more than per 60 than their competition would otherwise allow, it's pretty scary. And I think I agree with you. It would just be top line, but you could really play whoever. Like if you want to play Jack Drury and Jackson Blake and say, yeah, they played 12 minutes, but like they could score. I'm not going to fault you at their prices. Just everyone here has been very productive. So no fault in it. Seth Jarvis is going to lead the team in ice time just somehow. And yeah, just, it's fine. I don't like targeting Pittsburgh much though, because I just tend to think they're a little bit better, I think, than the field does. To my own detriment.
And the
All right.
Bucks plus 215. Yeah, plus 215 on that money line just seems a little bit crazy, but whatever. I'm sure the Hurricanes will, score then with a minute left, an empty netter like last game. So to the team that he just did that to, the Philadelphia Flyers, who play at 7:30 in Tampa Bay. The Flyers, it kind of continues to feel like the wheels are kind of coming off the bus. There's a perfect correlated piece here in connecting Frost and Tippett, team that's plus 170 and a 6 total. I could see myself going there. I know it kind of just worked, but I think more than it just kind of worked in a game that they got, kind of crushed to the expected goals numbers, but like connecting went nuclear. It didn't really matter. Tippett had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 shot attempts against Carolina. Like this is not Carolina. They're playing Tampa, likely without Braden Point. I don't think we get any news on that. Actually, I didn't even look.
No, they played
I think we heard anything.
They play a back to back. I don't think there was a back to back, but
They played Tuesday.
I didn't see anything.
No, I didn't see anything either. But like this Tampa team kind of looked a bit lost out there. I still think they're good defensively, and then kind of both teams want to play a slower pace. So like it's not great, but I think you could do worse than Frost connecting Tippett.
Yeah, that's for sure. Frost finally scored. Congratulations to him. The lines got all jumbled because, of course, that's Torts. I'm just guessing they go back to this, but truly, who knows? Anyone who plays with Michkov, I think, is interesting just because he unfortunately seems to be settling in as more of an orchestrator. The puck's always on his stick, so I'm not too worried. Like, oh, he's not that good. Like, I just don't think he's prioritizing shooting at the moment. And the power play has been very good. But not great, but much better than last year. And for those reasons, like anyone who plays with Michkov, I think is moderately interesting. Hopefully, it's one of Konechny or Tippett or Frost even as like a one-off. But yeah, just keep an eye on it. Tampa's weak without Braden Point down the middle, of course, and that could bleed into their defensive numbers. But let's get over to the Tampa side of things. We're assuming no changes, though, again, they lost to St. Louis, so there could be changes. I believe they got 2 of a possible 8 points on their most recent road trip. So in spite of Nikita Kucherov's heroics, they're just not stringing wins together, which means you could see some changes to these combinations. But is there anything you're looking for out of Tampa in this spot?
Just to function in general would be nice. Kucherov played 26 minutes. Sorelli got a ton of run, no power play time, but of course it's out there for a ton of 5-on-5 with the thing is that they got scored on twice, and you're like, oh man, like were they not good at 5? Well, they played more than a third of the game. Like it's gonna happen. Like you're just you can't help it. So like I think you could do worse than that whole stack. Chaffee or Chafee or whoever you freaking say it, like he still played power play 1. He doesn't shoot, as we mentioned. He saw 16 minutes. Like they're that desperate. Where like guys that before the year started, most of you would have been like, that is a made up player. That is that's an AI generated guy like Goose Looney's, and I've never heard of him, but they're getting real run on a team that is in a very big favorite spot. So like I could go to Kucherov here and Hagel, and Hagel, if I don't play him or bet on him, I guarantee he has a hat trick. So just check in with me on that. And if I do bet him, he'll have 2 shots and no points. So just double check with me tomorrow if you're going to play Hagel.
Yeah. Nikita Kucherov played, like you said, almost half the game in a game without Braden Point, like his center for the last 3 years. And had a 70% expected goal share. Like, I mean, that's just crazy. Not quite OV Russian machine don't break, but like that is an incredible, like, attacking mentality, I guess, for a guy who just played so much, to put up that kind of offense and succeed on the defensive end as well. So kudos to that. 9,500. It's a good spot. I would probably lean toward a one-off without Braden Point. Like you're saying, if he's floating around the lineup playing 26 minutes, Brandon Hagel's priced up, Victor Hedman's priced up. Like you're paying cost for these guys. I don't think there's any reason to force in a stacking partner when really the ideal is, okay, Kucherov gets 4 points, and yeah, sure, maybe one of those guys puts up 15 or 20, but on the slate this big, you don't need it, and there's just no need to really, over concentrate on the spot. So I like Kucherov as a one-off. And would like it even more, of course, if they truly went 11-7 and dressed Darren Radish, which of course they could do because, as you may know, they played guys like Isamont, Gonsalves, Geeky, Glendening, Gergensons, and Atkinson all less than 10 minutes last game. Like just, might as well play a defenseman. So I'm keeping an eye on that. Anything else before we head to next game?
No, we summed it up nicely. Next game is it's a Utah game, right? Utah at St. Louis, almost a dead pick 'em. Minus 115 for the Blues at home, coming off of the win against Tampa. So go back again, right in order again of the teams that just played the teams. Utah. I was going to say the over/under is a 6. That was the first thing, but again, Utah is who's on the screen right now. As far as punts are concerned, I think I mentioned it last time, and I know you were like, "Oh yeah, I do like that." And then I think you really considered. I don't think you played it, but the Michelli, Hayton, Schmaltz line is pretty freaking good, I think, and they're just not getting rewarded. And I could definitely go to it here. I don't have a ton of respect for St. Louis, but I'm not out on them either. But that is interesting. Keller and Dylan Gunther also in play, but like, is there a lean here you have, or are you kind of indifferent?
I'm keeping an eye, I think, more on St. Louis personally. Utah, we've tried it. We've tried it a couple times with Michelli now. I didn't try it last slate, but I'm just Utah on the road is just not that appealing to me. If they go 11-7, you can consider one-offs for sure. I honestly think I would just go Nick Schmaltz at this point. Has he scored a goal yet this year? Well, let's see. I think he was one of those guys. Yeah, he has 0 goals in 13 games. He has 11 assists. And yeah, that's only on 26 shots, but you can see that his expected fantasy point numbers are right up there with Gunther and Keller. So like he's doing enough, like attempts wise or just sort of process wise to get fantasy points, and it's just not happening. So I would probably lean toward a one-off, but of course I have no problem full stacking a 13.2K line with players that I like generally. But it's not a spot that I'm overly targeting. So anything that you're looking at on Utah front specifically?
I guess I would say I'm looking at it pretty closely. It feels like there's 2 pretty good stacks. The question is, do you have any interest in Sergachev to go along with it, or does that feel like kind of a $5,600 player that it feels okay? I don't know. He seems fine. I don't really even think there's all that much to glean. It's like you're stacking, it's whatever. Like he's not been that bad. There's some rates, there's some points. I don't think this is even that interesting of a question.
If you want to click names and go for it, sure. I pretty much it's second.
It's like a bad play on paper, but like
yeah, they traded for 1 defenseman or 2 defensemen like a maybe a week or two ago. And ever since then, he's had like, I think 4 blocks in 6 games. So you're really hoping for 5,600 to have some look at a double bonus. And for whatever reason, maybe it's just he's not getting the defensive minutes or something. But that those blocks have just went away. Honestly, since Sean Dursey went down, he's gotten far worse. And I'm not sure, maybe that's just a fluke, or maybe that's just a I don't know what to make of it. I'm not that interested though. I'm more interested in the St. Louis side. Just to transition things here. Dylan Holloway was back at practice today, which he got stretchered off the bench. Last night we were recording this on Wednesday, and he was actually fine. It sounds like he got hit in the nerve by his throat with a puck. He stayed on the ice. He finished
vagus
the shift.
nerve. Yeah.
I don't know
It's
the specifics.
I was actually looking at. I could give. It doesn't really matter. I looked into it today because I told my fiance, and she was like very interested. And it's like it like kind of connects to like a lot of your body, and like it's really interesting. And like again, like the puck, if you it was one of those things where like the puck hits him, it goes off of Kyrie's stick and hits him right here. You could tell it affected him, but he kept playing, and he said like, I started to feel weird, and I went to the bench, and then next thing I know, I wake up and I'm, in the hospital, and I feel fine. It's an insane thing, but yeah, he's expected to play tomorrow. At least that's what he said. So,
yep,
as long as everything goes well. So crazy.
The only interesting other thing that I got from it was he said it was he was explained to him as like the reason why MMA fighters will get choked out within like 3 seconds, which I found interesting. I never considered that, but he was like, I always wondered like, why don't they just hold their breath for those, whatever 4 seconds or, before they tap out? But it's literally because like that nerve like pinches and you like start to faint. Nothing to do with breathing. So that was interesting, like the chokehold reference he made. But yeah, anyway. The news report said that he was practicing online with Bushnevich and Neighbors. That's pretty interesting. That line is a total of 12.2K. Bushnevich and Neighbors both on the power play. That leaves Braden Shen to play with Saad and Kyrou on the second line for 14.2K. Of course, you get Kyrou with the second line, but it's a little bit more expensive. I don't know. I might be tempted to make a bet on Holloway, Bushnevich, Neighbors against this Utah team that I just don't think is all that scary defensively. And I would expect that Shen gets the matchup minutes too. So, not a ton scares me there for the first line on the sheet here in Bushnevich line. And they get a 2,500 defenseman in Scott Perunovich because the Justin Falk experiment is just over. Colton Parayko took over the power play too. So yeah, my best ball bags are weeping for Justin Falk, but guess what? They were already dead.
Yeah. I really agree with what you said pretty strongly. No, I like that line 1 in St. Louis quite a bit. I think that's a really, really good pivot away from other stuff. I think that won't be that highly owned, and it's actually a really nice play. On to the part 2 of the chalk of the night is the Dallas Stars playing the back-to-back road Chicago Blackhawks, going from Detroit. I believe they're in tonight. Are they in Detroit? I don't even know if that's true.
Nope, it's Kane's return to Chicago with Detroit.
Oh, okay. So going from Chicago to Dallas, minus 375. That is our biggest favorite for the Stars. 6 over under, but of course they're not giving quite a ton of credit here to these Blackhawks. Ryan Donato's been like almost cheat code levels goods. I think he hasn't yet. He's right on the edge of hitting the shots bonus at the end of 2 periods. Bedard is just that level of talent. We know what Donato can do. So there's something here on Chicago, regardless of everything. Like I don't think I'm clicking on 8K Bedard. I think you could make a case for it, even against a team that I actively fade playing against in Dallas. But with just how good Donato's been, I think you can make a case for it here. I really do.
Yeah, I'm on board like a one-off Donato. There's I think I mentioned earlier, if you're playing like just say Barkov and Reinhardt, and you're like, do I want to play Erod? Donato's the sort of guy where I'm like, just play Ryan Donato.
Yeah.
I think, it's assuming he keeps this to roll. It's a 2-1 game. They're trailing. If he gets moved off the top line for whatever reason in the third and it's kind of questionable, then sure, maybe don't do it. But if he sticks there all game, yeah, he profiles. He has a long track record of being a shoot first player. He is a fan, or he is a favorite of the show. 3,100 Ryan Donato was far too cheap given what we know at this point. I will check their power plays. I wasn't confident in what they were rolling out on the power plays, so this is probably wrong. Well, it's definitely wrong because like Teuvo Teravainen's going to have a role, but Lucas Reichel could be in play. But it's unlikely. But he's actually been really good despite a fourth line role with a power play job. And if that elevates into the top six, like, yeah, it's 3,600, but it could play just because he's the guy we're waiting for. It's like, and then once he gets here, I bet he gets here pretty fast because he's really good prospect. But let's head over to the Dallas side of things where it's far more interesting, of course. We have lines from practice of Robertson, Hintz, Donov, Sam Steele, Duchesne, Sagan. That's because Mason Marchment is day-to-day due to injury, not expected to play. And then Jamie Benn, Wyatt Johnson, and Logan Stankoven. This is pretty much standard minus the Dodonov first line, but it means Wyatt Johnson gets Jamie Benn and Logan Stankoven let's lead with this question. DJ, is Jamie Benn's season just completely over? Is he deader than dust? Or is this a factor where, okay, he's with Johnson and Stankoven, you believe in him, he can get it going again for this very cheap 14K Johnson line stack against Chicago?
It's probably not my preferred line, but I think if you're stacking it, you're just doing it. It is kind of a perfect situation of like, man, this Wyatt Johnson stuff can't last. Like he's way too good for what's actually the output that's happening. And like Logan Stankoven is just proven to be a very high level playmaker to go along with. So like if you're doing it, you're just playing Jamie Benn though. Like I don't see any scenario where, well, I mean, there is obviously scenarios, but like I don't see it why 3,900 Jamie Benn is off the table if you're playing Johnston and Stankoven. Like first off, Johnston power play 1 correlation. And the way Jamie Benn can produce, he could really come from anyone if he scores on that power play because of where he plays. Yeah, I definitely agree. I'm certainly higher on the Robertson Hintz situation. And like, I know it's going to be somewhat chalky, especially because I actually think, Dadonov's a fine player. And at 2,800, I could definitely throw him in without feeling any hesitation. But like, as we're already making the case, you could easily play either of them. And people will just click on Duchesne, Sagan, Steele. I really do think they will. Well, like people love playing Sagan. It just kind of whatever you want to play here. And I think that if who's going to be the most owned, it's going to be Robertson. Who is Robertson going to be played with? Probably the most. He'll probably be Hintz. Will people click on Dadonov? Probably a bit less. They might go 2-man. They might go Heiskanen. They might even take a look at 4K Harley. But there's just so many options here that it might not let anything get so over the moon chalky. So I think I lean with the top line, but I definitely don't have a problem with the Johnston Benn Stankoven unit.
Yeah. I do wonder if the third line doesn't become the most popular line just because people like Stankoven. Wyatt Johnson's probably going to project great for the price. And then Jamie Benn, I think, will sort of have a hangers-on type projection attached to him. So, like, if that does transpire and we see that line's going to be more owned, then I would expect that Robertson Hintz just has to be lower owned than is optimal as a result of that. And I have no problem playing Dodonov. I in fact would play him in that. I don't think there's a world where Sam Steele, Maverick Bork, Oscar Bach, or Colin Blackwell play a power play job over him. So he's going to get at least power play 2. And we've seen with them, they're comfortable sort of divvying up their power play roles a little bit. So like if they want to go Dallas 1 with Miro and Dallas 3 with Harley, and then split up. Maybe they wouldn't split up Duchesne and Sagan, but I think you get the gist. Like, I don't think they're committed to a power play 1 at this point because it's simply not been very good. That it's at least interesting to sort of just say, yeah, screw it. Let's just take a shot on Dallas 1 here. So 1 or 3 for me. and Harley just hasn't really been it. So I would just play Miro at 5,100
Yeah,
over Harley personally.
that's
But
fair.
let's get to the final 3 games of the evening. Uh, yeah, 3 games. Colorado at Winnipeg is first up. What do you have for us here?
Yeah, I mean, Lekanen, he did pretty well at 3,500. Unsurprising. It just feels like when there's a guy that's such obvious, great, amazing chalk, they're just going to get there. He does in spades. Should stick with the Rantanen and McKinnon line at 5-on-5 in the power play. Did end up costing them a goal by going offside, which on a weird play, but 4 shots, a block, goal, assist.
Nope. That goal counted, didn't it?
No, that one got called back. They scored pretty soon after.
The Rantanen goal? Or was there a second goal that
It was
got reviewed
Rantanen
for
again.
offsides?
It really doesn't matter at all. Rantanen scored and got called back for offsides. I thought it was Lekanen. Was it not Lekanen?
No, that goal counted, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
It did,
I will
because
send you.
they reviewed it, they called it offsides, and then they reviewed the review and said, oh, they didn't pass the puck. Like it was a rim around that made it all the way to Lekanen, so offsides didn't matter. So they reviewed the review and overturned the call, so that goal stood.
That's what happened. Because I literally turned
Yeah.
it off after they said no goal. They literally called it no goal. Wow. I didn't really know what happened there because then they scored again so quickly. I was like, holy crap, they scored again. And the same thing. And I was like, that's crazy. Wow, I'm stupid.
Yeah, no.
I shouldn't have turned it off. Should have waited till after they said no goal the second time, but then they didn't. What a weird situation. I saw people tweeting about it too, and I was like, what are they talking about?
We knew the second you complained that they would undo it. So, yeah. Yeah, Lekanen's priced up to 5K. It's not enough. I mean, this is at least a 6K player in this role, so you can fire him up against Winnipeg. It's not a must play, but I think in this case I would stack him with McKinnon. Very important note is that Cale Makar is technically questionable. He left last game, did not return. He's traveling with the team though. The coach didn't seem too concerned with his status, so keep an eye on it. Obviously, they're not going to push him if he's not 100 or if he's not, say 95%. But we have seen Cale Makar play long stretches of season hampered by injuries, so it might behoove them to sit him. In that case, Devon Toews would jump up into the Cale Makar role, of course. And you can see the power play just is basically these 4 guys just with whatever defenseman wanted to join them last time out. Like Logan O'Connor got a shift on the power play. Otherwise, it was literally all got shifts. Sam Malinsky, Sam Girard, and Josh Manson. It was just because the defenseman got off the ice and someone else jumped on. So, there's really no reason, I think, to go punts in Colorado, but that's why you see all this weird green because, they didn't have anyone else play power play shifts besides the main forwards you would expect. McKinnon's been relatively poor on an expected fantasy point basis. Kind of surprising. He's just not shooting as much as in seasons past. So keep an eye on it. I don't know. Against Winnipeg, how do you feel about Winnipeg?
I like Winnipeg, honestly. I think this is kind of my other flag plan is just going full in on Winnipeg 1 against Colorado for a few, I guess, a mirage of reasons. The Makar thing is interesting. Not going to over kind of bake that in my brain right now, though. Like, he should probably play tomorrow, like you're saying. Everything kind of pointed to that he should be fine. But the depth is still so bad. Like, I know they got Lekanen back, but as I pointed out, I'm like, yes, Lekanen is a better Ross Colton, a better hockey player than Ross Colton, not by a ton, but probably just a slightly better player. And that's kind of the swap we have here. And now, after one game of them getting there against a completely helpless Seattle team, we're just going to kind of pivot away from the fact that they were atrocious in net to a point that you can actually consider how bad they are. They're going back to Georgiev, who has a 824 save percentage. And when McKinnon's not on the ice, which I know he's on the ice a lot, but when he's not on the ice, this is a bad team. I don't know if there's going to be a very ultra specific matchup that they're going to put on McKinnon. Are they going to try to open up Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele away from him as much as possible? I guess that's the hope here. Like, Nemestikov can be a bit of a shutdown guy. We know Lowry is a guy that they will deploy in that role, and Hamilton as well. You could get a situation where they.
Let's just make this quick. Adam Lowry will shadow McKinnon all over the ice. That's the way they've played it. That's the way they've played it so far this year as shutdowns. So, yeah, Adam Lowry is going to get the shutdown, leaving the top six to feast on Middlestat and the bottom two lines.
I think it's the sharp play of the night. I really do. Will it get there or not? I don't know. But I think a lot of sharp people will look at Winnipeg pretty closely.
Yeah, I very much agree. I will say if I play Winnipeg, I'm just playing Mark Scheifele. 6,800 could honestly keep some people away. You know, the Morrissey, Velarde, Connor stuff, I think could actually get more owned than just Scheifele, Connor, Velarde. And I'm just going to stand for Mark Scheifele here in this spot. So maybe that's unique. Maybe it's not. Maybe I'm just making shit up. But otherwise, I think Niederreiter's like a very good one-off. 3,900. He just continues to produce. The minutes will be there in magnitude. You know, like I said, if Lowry's chasing around McKinnon, well, Adam Lowry better be ready to play at least 18, 19 minutes here, if not more. So, of course, they're going to have to share that duty just based on how much McKinnon plays. But because that line will be primarily tasked, the minutes will be there in plenty. And yeah, Nito's been awesome. I don't think you need to stack him or anything, but just noteworthy at sub 4K in a pretty good matchup. Anything else in this game?
No. Well, we got 2 games left. We have one really good spot. I guess I could have mentioned too that Winnipeg is a minus 148 and a 6.5 total. The next game is just on the edge of the lowest total. It is barely over that edge. Vancouver at the LA Kings. Just really hard to want to stack into this game. It feels like Vancouver's prices are cheap enough that you could consider it. Like Pedersen finally, kind of came to life against Anaheim, but who doesn't come to life against Anaheim other than the players on Anaheim, namely Cutter Gauthier. This is not Anaheim they're playing in LA. This is a very good LA Kings team, which sometimes like to pat ourselves on the back and say that we were right, and this is one that we were right on. But not only were we right about LA being good, but even with losing Drew Doughty, they've been an absolute hammer defensively, only allowing 1.2 expected goals against the Minnesota Wild, who employ a guy in Kirill Kaprizov that was not even on the Hockey Viz for expected goals, meaning that he was sub 0.06 individual expected goals. Not a good look. Something that I am fearful of. Who are they going to stack him against? I just don't care. I'm not playing Vancouver here. It's just expensive enough for me to say no thank you. And I think Quinn Hughes is one of the best priced plays, but this matchup is just like, why am I doing it?
Yes, these are the 2 best teams in the NHL defensively. Expected goals against above average and over the last 10. So, maybe not the full season, but I don't see any reason to specifically target this spot. Jake DeBrusk at 3,200, just another guy who could make sense as a one-off. Ownership's not going to come in on Miller or Besser in this spot. So that's a reason that I think DeBrusk makes sense as a one-off, just because usually when you bet on a guy who's cheap like that, if he gets there, his line mates will get there. But because they're more expensive and because ownership should remain low, you're just not fighting as much of the field when DeBrusk does well. So that's why I prefer those types of one-offs. Otherwise, not super interested in chasing a 7K Quinn Hughes into this matchup. If I'm chasing a D-man in this matchup, I'm just going to play Brant Clark at 5,100, who's been absolute nails. So, I'm not super into that. However, noteworthy from that Minnesota game is that they started with Andre Lee on the top line. They kept Fogle and Byfield with LaFerriere. That means if Alex Turcotte misses this game, Kevin Fiala, Kopitar, Kempe, the way that they played the entire third period against Minnesota could stick. And obviously that's a perfectly correlated line that we haven't seen much of in this LA times. So like Clark in LA1 could be a really fun low-owned stack, even though it's a bad matchup for, offensive outlook.
I mean, the Flyers were a very bad matchup against the Hurricanes. No one played them, and Konechny had 36 or whatever he had. So, it's not baseless. It's like, oh, this isn't great, right? But it doesn't really matter on a 1-game sample size. Like
Yeah.
if
And
Fiala gets there, Kempe gets there, they score 3 goals, and it comes through, one of them getting a hat trick or whatever. Like you could be totally fine. So what are you gonna say?
yeah, they're not bad lines otherwise, but like spots like this where it's literally like a one-line team, which again, this is not a guarantee. We didn't have a practice today, so check it, but they did finish the game Fiala, Kopitar, Kempe. The fact that, the best 3 players on a team are playing together should not be overstated just from a, matchup, throw the matchup out the window type perspective. So that's why I'm mostly interested. But of course, you can leave off Kopitar, and I have no issue with that. Like, yeah, I don't understand why he's more expensive than Kempe and Fiala. There's just no backing for that. Anyone else you're interested in?
No, let's get to the
All
final
right.
game of the night. If you're waking up from if you woke up from a coma after the past 3 games, you would probably assume the San Jose Sharks are back, baby, because they are rolling through wins. I believe that was 3 in a row. If I made the joke, so I hope I'm right. It did not come through the seemingly owned Celebrini to Foley line. It came through the Wenberg, Zetterlund, Eklund line, as to be expected. Why do I think that was Will? Or yeah, why do I think it was Will Smith? But what does it matter? I guess. Did he not play? No, we played. He had an assist. Was it Will Smith and not Wenberg? They got that wrong. No, Will Smith had an assist. Okay, it doesn't matter. He did play. None of that matters. What matters here is that Minnesota is a much better team. They are probably going to beat the Sharks. It is a minus 265 road favorite. 6 total. Sharks are bad, but Celebrini makes them at least interesting. I think one thing that's been surprising is kind of just how good Toffoli and Granlund have actually been. And with Celebrini, I do think it's of note. Probably not here, though. Minnesota's a good team. I know they just lost pretty badly to LA, but good bounce back spot.
Yeah, on the Minnesota front, there shouldn't be any changes. It was just one game. They've been so good. So yeah, Kaprizov's going to be, I think, the most owned player on the slate, if I had to guess. And 9,400, can't really argue it. Zuccarello's 62, Matt Boldy's 81, Joel Eriksson X 63. Keep an eye on the owner or the projections, because there might be people just playing like Kaprizov, Eriksson Ek, Boldy. I think you can play Marco Rossi. Just don't. If the optimizer is trying to jam in Eriksson Ek, I like Rossi more. If it's just like if it's agnostic, then sure, I don't really care which one you stack. But Rossi's been really good too. Just no top power play time. But guess what? Against San Jose, you're probably not going to need too many power plays to produce if they're meeting their implied goal total. And Kaprizov is the tide that lifts all boats here. So stack around him. Just don't play Brock Faber, and you'll be happy.
I
weekly PSA.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's kind of like, we do every slate, and I feel like a lot of times I don't know why it's been this way, but I always end up liking a lot of the teams at the end, and it's kind of felt like I love Dallas, Winnipeg, Minnesota. I'm in on some St. Louis action for sure, like I mentioned, as some punts, and of course, if you're stacking Kaprizov, I think it makes some sense that could be a nice pivot away from some other stuff. And then if not, New Jersey is the other one that I think is probably the highest on my tiers list. So those are some good starting points. Is there any other stacks as far as your top stacks of the night that might be of interest? And it could be from that mix.
Did you already transition full on into top stacks?
I was trying to.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to note for San Jose that Wallman should be back. It was just a one game thing for him, and doesn't seem injury related. And the coach said, not a big deal. So we should be back, and that makes them slightly better.
Grittying.
Anyway, yeah. So Anyway, not anything else to really talk about there. So let's see. Top stacks. I'm gonna go New Jersey 2. T-shirt, Timo, and Mercer. We'll just come back to that. Again, I'll look into some of the underlyings for this team, because they are a bit worse than I would expect given Heischer's success to start the year. But assuming it's not dastardly, like, oh, Heischer's actually been terrible and they're just shooting 38% with him on the ice, I don't think that's the case. I really like this line. People, I think are just not playing Timo. He was 11% owned on a 3-game slate on Monday, and T-shirt was like 30. So like, I don't know. I get he's more expensive than a power play 2 guy should be, but this is Timo Meyer. He's not a normal power play 2 guy, so I will happily play it. I'll just play the full line and take advantage of this terrible Montreal team.
Not a bad idea. I will go with Winnipeg 1, Shifley, Connor, Velarde. If you want to throw in Morrissey for good measure, I'd be my guest.
Yep, I definitely like that. Let's get a little spicy. Let's go with Rangers 3. Chris Kreider, Phil Hedl, and Capo Caco. Very cheap exposure to the power play in all 3 players for 12.2K. I just don't think you're gonna beat it. Don't like stacking against the old Buffalo Sabres because as we commonly complain about every day, they are like one of the top 10 teams in expected goals percentage, and it's just for whatever reason just isn't happening for them. It's not their year once again. But yeah, the Rangers are pretty good. These guys are all cheap, and we love Phil Hedl especially.
Yeah, it's not been their year since 1972. There's a lot of options that you could go to, and I think that one that I'm going to end up keying in on is that St. Louis. You kind of mentioned it before I could get to it, but that's fine. Busnevich, Neighbors, and off the mat and into the Korea thing, but Dylan Holloway. I'm trying to think of the thing. I mean, he got like concussed. It probably should not have played. This is different, but he off the mat and in the back of the net or whatever. You know what I'm talking about, right? What the heck was the freaking call?
I don't know the call. I know the play you're alluding to though. So yeah. I hope that helped.
Off the floor and on the board. That's it. Not Matt. Your name is Matt. Off the floor and on the board. Again, very different situation. Like, not condoning that you should play through a traumatic head injury, but this is like it's different. Don't
what's
cancel
funny
me for that. I just
DJ, check your phone.
What?
I think the NHLPA is trying to offer you a spot on their CTE committee. Yeah,
they're like, wait, this guy figured it out. We just got to say that it wasn't the head thing, which it wasn't. Like, I mean, you can watch the replay. Okay, someone actually called it out too. Off the floor. I'm literally I don't know why I thought it was off the mat, but yeah, no, he gets a goal. Busnevich hat trick. They score 6 against Utah. They all come through that line. I mean, you just win. You just have to tell yourself something that isn't going to happen, and it might happen.
Sure.
You know what? We forgot to mention too. Goalie. We didn't even say the obvious goalie play of the night, Matt. Did you again? Someone's like, "Who do you play in net? Who do you play in net?" There's a perfect goalie at 7,100.
7,100. Uh-oh.
It's Alex Nedeljkovic revenge in Carolina.
55 save
shutout. Alex Nedeljkovic. Wow. I mean, here we are. We call ourselves. I gotta hang up the freaking podcast. We say that we're podcasters. We don't even give the guy that asked about what goalie to play the best goalie call of all time. So I'm gonna say my 2 stacks plus Nedeljkovic, and then you just jam whatever the heck you want. You can play whatever you want for your other like 4 pieces. You could like McKinnon and whoever. I don't even know. Win the slate. Game over. Good night, Slate.
That makes sense. Maybe he'll even get an overtime assist to help his cause.
2 defensemen at 11K, but alas, play what you'd like. Win money. Matt, did you say your second sack? You did, right? Yeah,
I think so.
You did too. We didn't say goals. Goals from last podcast. Let me pull it up quickly. We had Raquel, Marchand, Tage, Lehkonen, DJ 2 for 2, Matt 0 for 2, as one would expect.
Oh, hey, that's not fair. You're not allowed to say that.
I am allowed to say that. I'm on the CTE committee. Matt, you get to pick first on this this time. I think you did last time too, but got to give you a little bit of a head start.
All right. Shit. Let's go Jason Robertson, 6,200.
Hey. Okay. You know what? Yeah, I'll go Jack Hughes, 77. I'm gonna go big and I think I want to go big and small here.
Okay. That leaves me 4,800 for my second. I'm gonna go with Marco Rossi, 4,700. Just take him against San Jose. Nice little Jason Robertson, Marco Rossi goal parlay. Guaranteed to go 2 for 2 for you on Thursday night.
That's how we do. That's how we do. I'm gonna actually save $200. And you can just put that to the side and play a little Ryan Donato. Use Donato, J Rob, and Marco Rossi.
More like
not to be
Donato to the sports books. Am I right?
You son of a gun. Good comeback. Great podcast. I feel like that was our second best, only Tuesday. But no, we had a good finish there. Pretty strong stuff.
I think it's tied for the best with every podcast we've ever done.
You make a good point. I didn't consider the fact that they're all so good.
Actually, except for that one where we were talking to Jay and you were like 7 minutes delayed. You just start speaking when we were in the middle of a conversation.
I would say that's fair, but since I just kind of stopped talking, I think it was actually right back up there with one of our best. I kind of just gave up.
Okay.
Restarted my computer, moved into the other room, and I just was toast, dude. Yeah. That was I think if I'm ever doing any, and I'm normally when we're on with the Badge Bros in the past, I'd go to that other room. I'm my computer cannot handle multiple people. Very cool stuff. So thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for getting us over the 400 subscribers mark. Just days away from million. Just got to get a couple more of those. A couple more people, and we'll be right there. Great to see. A lot of new people, a lot of fun all around. Everyone's having a good time. Anything else?
Yeah, just a couple things before we go. My newsletter linked in the description, moods.beehive.com. I wrote up the Tuesday slate if you want to sort of look at a slate recap and look at the $200,000 winner and some of my thoughts on it. It was a really interesting set of lineups that this guy built. I didn't fully go through them, but I hinted at them. And again, he had the nuts, but he also played a ton of Buffalo and didn't win with the Buffalo lineup, which is crazy. So just read that. Your Dub Club, sign up for it if you like betting. That's also linked in the description of the show. And I'm on Twitter at Fake Moods. DJ's at DJ_Mitchell94. And make sure you subscribe to DJ's YouTube channel. We are trying to get to 500. That way we can do fun stuff with the channel.
Trying to get to 1 million.
That too. All right. Thank you all for hanging out. Good luck on Thursday. From Doug, from DJ, from myself, have a good Thursday slate, everybody, and we will see ya.